always good to have all the realtors together in one place to see each other. Some of us don't get to see each other enough, so we can do deals together, and so this is a really good thing. I'm glad you're all here. I look forward to hearing your comments, and we will try our best to try and answer them. I'm going to try initially to give you just a little bit of background of how we got to where we are, and then we'll go into some questions. I won't do that now. As your treasurer for GACAR, I'm also the head of what we call our finance committee. And your finance committee is made up of other GACAR members, a group of about 5 of us, along with our GACAR president and our president-elect. And our job for you is to bring back a balanced budget proposal to the board of directors. So unlike the United States government and some of the other governments that are in debt, we can't bring back a deficit budget where we print new money. So our job is to figure out a way to bring back a zero balance budget. We have to have as much income as we have expenses. As you also know, there's GACAR and there's MLS. You're paying separate MLS dues for what the MLS does, which is a profit-making organization, and you pay dues for GACAR, which is a non-profit organization. Trust me, we don't make any profit. I think you've all seen online how our number of paying members has greatly decreased since 2007, from a high of around 1,400 now down to currently around 720 members. Our job as a finance committee is to try and project each year how many members we'll have, because that is the basis of how we determine what dues will be. And I will say for the finance committee, the last 3 years, we've been almost right on the money each of our years for projections. Last year, we projected that there would be about 730, and we had 746. The other unique thing about GACAR, which I think is a good thing, is if you've been in the business long enough, which we won't name names, you get something called life membership. Life membership means you can be a member of GACAR without paying any dues at all. We basically pay your dues for you. And right now, there's about 25 life members out of the total number of members in GACAR. So we've had to project what we will be dealing with in 2012. And for 2012, we have projected that we'll have 655 members that will stay with GACAR. And if our track record is correct, we should be pretty close to that number for 2012. Of that 655, again, 25 of those people are life members and don't pay dues. So now we're dealing with 630 dues-paying members. So our job on the Finance Committee was to figure out a way to cut our budget, because there was no way with less members that we were going to be able to fund the things we've been funding in the past. The other point I will make is that most things around here are done in combination with MLS. Our staff, our facilities, everything we do, our utilities, there's a proportionate expense for the MLS part of all of us and the GACAR part of all of us. So staff doesn't just work for GACAR, it works for MLS. They don't just work for MLS, they also work for GACAR. Lisa is the head of all that, and it's her responsibility to control and run the staff at the direction of your boards of directors. So let's get down to what you already know about, but let me try and tell you how we got there. We instructed Lisa, because we are now in a staff-centric organization as opposed to previous years before, about 2 or 3 years ago, we were member-centric, which meant that the volunteer members tried to run the organization all by themselves, whether they had the expertise to do everything or not, and the staff was there primarily as helpers to get things done. We felt that as volunteers and having staff, that staff should be the one running the organization in our direction, and that we should be there to manage that and make sure they're doing the things we want them to do the way we want them to do it. So with that change, when we had our finance committee meeting, we knew we had to cut from $75,000 to $100,000 just to get to the point we are now. So we instructed staff to go do that. So we made lots of cuts. I know you probably don't think we have, but believe it or not, we made lots of cuts in travel. We made lots of cuts in almost anything you can think of, and we're happy to go through some of those things if you want. One thing we had to cut was staff. Now, I'm sure everybody thinks we just should cut all the staff, and then we could save a whole bunch of money. That's not the feeling of your boards of directors. We feel we have the best staff that you could possibly have. They're well qualified, well trained, and they do a whole bunch for us that you don't even know they do. And that's probably a problem, that you don't know what staff does because you don't understand why they should be here. But those are the people that you elect as your boards of directors for MLS and GACAR, I think have a full understanding of what staff's responsibilities are and what they do for us. And with the advent of all the computer stuff we do, life hasn't been made simpler. It's actually been made more complicated. I know that seems wrong, that the whole idea of computers is to make things easier, but it has made it easier for us. It just hasn't been made easier for staff, because staff now has to do a whole lot of things to support and manage what we do. So it's not so easy just to say, let's cut all the staff. But we did cut one staff member. Staff came back with an additional proposal to not have us cover 100% of their insurance, which we've been doing. So staff is now going to take over a portion of their insurance. They're giving up their dental coverage, which they were getting. And we feel at this point in time that that's the most we felt comfortable cutting staff at this point in time. We could, and we came to the conclusion in order to balance our budget, we had to raise dues. Now last year, we had, as I said, 746 members. And no, we did not raise dues. So how were we able to function? Well, we did something that we didn't feel we should ever do again, and that was last year, MLS, which owns this building, but we hold the mortgage for that, decided they would try and pay down their mortgage, and they gave GACAR $50,000 that we could use in our budget last year, which took care of the shortfall we had to make up last year. Well, when MLS, which is a profit-making organization, pays down their mortgage of $50,000, two things happen. One, they get no tax deduction for that $50,000 that they spent because it's going towards the principal of the mortgage. And two, now GACAR, which earns principal and interest off of holding the mortgage, is earning it on $50,000 less of what we had, which means our income from MLS is going down. So we did not see them paying down the building as a major benefit to us. So we didn't think we wanted to go that direction again. The other direction is to go into reserves. Reserves, there are about $300,000 of reserves. You'll think, wow, that's a lot of money. Let's just go ahead and do the reserves. And we gave a great deal of thought to, should we go into reserves or not go into reserves? And our feeling was, if this was a one-time event that we thought we were in, let's go into reserves, deal with the problem, and we won't have this problem again. We don't think this is a one-time event. We think we're now at a level of which our organization is probably going to be at for the next foreseeable future. We're going to be around 550 to 650 members probably for who knows how long. So for a number of years, we've been dealing with artificially low dues because we had so many members. It didn't make any difference. When you have 1,300, 1,200 members paying any amount of money, that's a whole lot of dues. We're going to raise the dues $70. How much money do you think that gives GACAR? Anybody quick with math? $44,000. Not even as much as the $50,000 we got last year from MLS. So even though the $70 to each of us is a huge amount of money in a bad economic time that we're all in, that was our only choice to bring back a balanced budget. We didn't feel the other options were appropriate. Going into reserves, which are there for critical future issues where we might have to face a lawsuit of some type or some other catastrophic event. If we go in and start taking $50,000 a year out of our reserves, how long do you think our reserves will be there? So we did not think that was prudent to do with your funds, which they are your. Okay, I don't know if you can see this or not. I'll try and read it to you for those in the back. But this is the no longer projected due statement. It is what was voted on by your board of directors that you may not be overly happy about. But I want you to see how your dues statement is actually broken down. You all know what you pay MLS, so I don't need to go over that. Your GACAR annual dues this year will be $295. You also have to pay, this should be FR, Florida Realtors annual dues of $116. Because in order to have the designation of Realtor, which we all have, you have to be a member of the National Association of Realtors and the Florida Association of Realtors through by being a member of GACAR. Sort of a catch-22. We can't get out of that. So your Florida Realtors annual dues is $116. The Florida Realtors has something called an advocacy fund, which you pay $10 for. And then your National Association of Realtor annual dues, so you can be a realtor, is $120. And I will point out that they actually raised that $40 this year. And then you have a National Association of Realtors public awareness campaign of $35. Thank you. That total is $576. That would have been, without the dues increase, $506. Subtract 70. These are all optional things that you have on your dues statement, which I think are all really good things for us, because these are things that by being a member of GACAR, you get an option to do. The most important one is actually the second thing here, which is called EdPAC. For $60 a year, I don't know any other profession you can be in that for $60 a year, you have the option of getting your continuing education to renew your license. If you can find another profession that you can pay $60 a year to get the education to renew your license, please let me know, because I don't think there are any. We also came up with a couple of years ago this event pass, which is $50, which gets you into all the GACAR events, all the luncheons, breakfasts, the 12 events during the year. That works out less than $5 an event. Whereas in the past, if you went to the events, you were paying $10 to $15 per event. So this is another benefit we've tried to add to our membership. RPAC, which is voluntary, is either a $25 or $99 contribution to try and help with all the political things that we're up against as realtors. So you start at $576, and you can add or not add any of these other items if you choose. Actually, it's a prepayment option that you can start in October and pay October, November, and December and take your dues, whatever you choose to be the amount of dues that you will do, and divide it up into 3 equal payments using a charge card if you choose to do that. You don't have to. It's strictly an option. Normally, there would be a $15 fee for that privilege of using a charge card and the additional work and cost involved to GACAR to do that. But we decided this year to waive that fee, so anybody that wants to take advantage of that can do it at no cost to them. I think you've all seen, the items of what you get for your dues. I think you all have seen the reduction in our membership, and we just are at a point now where we have to decide how we are financially going to move forward with our GACAR for the future. And we see that our future is pretty much looking us in the face right now. This is not a blip on the map, so reserves are not a true option, even though you might think that should be, because from a fiduciary standpoint, if we start taking money out of reserves, we're doing a great disservice, not just to the people sitting in this room, but to the other 600 members of this association. So that does not seem to be a viable option. Now, I know some of you want the option to be able to talk and not have staff here. So I'm going to ask if Lisa and staff would maybe step out for a little while until we call you back, so that people can feel comfortable talking in this environment. Does staff not